happy Sunday, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a happy Sunday it is. 99 degrees in Austin, Texas. Capacity crowds at Barton Springs. My brother went to Barton Springs, had to go stand in the Dog Beach spillover, like he couldn't get in. And so there's like 2 feet of water that you could just kind of stand in while all the dogs fight around each other.
I mean, the easily the funniest part about that is just imagining your brother and him saying something like, "Oh, jeez."
I think he had a great time though. He was showing off Austin to a coworker who was
nice.
from England. So my guess is it was novel to them no matter what.
Oh yeah.
I'm ready to start whenever you want.
All right.
All right. I got nothing.
Oh, really?
I mean, I got a show, but I mean,
Oh, okay. Got it.
All right. Well, then take it away in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young.
Hello, friends. It's me, Justin Robert Young.
And Brian Brushwood.
Man, don't bury the lead. Justin, where are you?
I am live from Cleveland, Ohio, where we are on the eve of the Republican National Convention, wherein presumptive nominee Donald Trump will be named the actual nominee, therefore kicking off the 2-week period where we finalize who's running for president and then make them fight to the death on a remote island.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry I missed you. I was just in Ohio myself. I did a magic lecture in Columbus, which I assume is 2 or 3 hours away from Cleveland.
Yeah. You know, if you don't travel by teleport, it is I believe 3 hours south.
Gentlemen, that's great, but I'm sorry. I just got breaking news.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna try an experiment here in Weird Things. You know, we've done scenarios before. I think we're gonna do a scenario that's gonna be a multi-parter. We'll do a little bit part today. We'll do a little bit part next podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I
Give
love
you
this
time to
already.
think about it. All right, we're gonna go to our favorite scenario: plague.
Oh, I thought it was snakes, but that's okay. Oh, I guess a plague of snakes.
Plague spread by snakes. Whatever you
Perfect.
want, whatever the vector you want, Brian. Whatever makes you happy. And the news is that there's plague. It's been spreading. People are dropping like flies. I mean, as soon as we get off the podcast, like Brian, I'm sorry to say, you start hearing coughing from downstairs.
Dude, I've already got it. If you're talking about Pokemon Go fever.
No, we're not going to talk about that.
Oh,
Brian.
okay.
That's the next segment. We're talking about actual plague. By the time we finish the podcast, your family's dead.
Oh, gee, good God. No, that's awful. I'm against it.
Who's laughing now, Brian?
I vote against it. Justin, you're at the National Convention. See if you can start a motion on the floor.
It's wiping its way through, goes to the floor. People are coughing and wheezing, dropping. Okay,
So it's respiratory, or it appears to be airborne, right?
Yeah, whatever. It's spreading, okay? And it's people are just dying left and right. And you guys both get a little woozy, but you survive. And so the survival rate's like 0.1% or something, okay? All right. So there are people around, but there's not really people around, okay?
So it's roughly the equivalent of, because that was the promise of the neutron bomb, is that if you detonated a neutron bomb above a city, you could instantly irradiate all the people and keep most of the infrastructure intact so that you just move in and take over.
Yeah, you just have to put up a couple fans and, just waft it on out of there. Next thing you know, you move in, bada bing, bang, boom. Real estate's never
hang
been
some
cheaper.
air fresheners around and you're good.
Yeah.
So, Brian,
Yeah.
things start to fall apart. Internet service, telephone service, all of that starts to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, you get hold of like a friend's like a ham radio or whatever, and you're listening to there and you hear pleas from people like, hey, we're in Tucson, if you're anybody out there, let us know, whatever. You've hoarded food. You've got a bunch of food hoarded up in your house, You burned the bodies in your neighborhood. You took my advice instead of just leaving there to rot and fester.
Right.
Okay. And you're listening to the radio and you're like, better yet, forget the radio. Now listen to the radio because you're not smart enough for that. I kid, Brian.
No. You're right. That's a fact, actually. There's no need to kid on that one.
Yeah.
That's why we always used to make fun of the Ham Nation show, because we were too scared to ask.
you get your, I don't know, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Curled up in your bed behind your barricaded door, because there still are people out there, but it's scary people. You've got your canned food, everything like this, and there's a knock on your door.
I mean, I assume that I just pretend to not be there, but my guess is that they're probably going to be rather insistent. Am I right?
Yeah, they're insistent. You see, you hear, you ignore it. A couple hours later,
I'm doing recon before I so much as make a whisper. I'm peeking out the windows. I'm climbing on the roof, looking over the edge. Is this a gang of marauders running around?
one scruffy looking person wrapped up in rags.
Yeah, but I mean, I just dodged a bullet on this plague thing. I mean, surely he's got to understand. Wait, by any chance, is it Justin?
I don't know. How are you going to find out?
All right, I'm going to knock on the door. I'm like, what do you want?
Bri, it's me, Justin.
Damn it, over here. Justin Robert Young?
Who else?
How did you, why are you in Austin? I haven't spoken to you since
I
the
don't know if
falling.
you got the news, Brian, but there was a big of an apocalypse. Stuck in Ohio.
Okay, all right. So he makes it to my house. Well, I'm gonna let him in, right?
Wait, you're not gonna test me with some knowledge that only you and I would know?
Well, but it wasn't a shapeshifter plague. It was just a regular plague. I mean, first of all, do you know why I wouldn't? Because if I
Why?
did, you would mock me relentlessly, saying, "Brian, don't be an idiot.
Brian, this
a
isn't the
shapeshifter."
time. This isn't the time. We are the future of humanity. And by the way, if somebody did want to break in, it's not like there's countless hundreds of hours of us talking to each other on for anybody to see. They could just know enough to impersonate me. You need to ask me a question that only you and I would know.
All right.
Right here now for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, when we watched Rick and Morty on top of your rooftop, and I fell and ate it because of the stupid layout of the up and down on the deck, I woke up with a part of my body that hurt real bad. What was that part of my body?
I don't know. How about your stupid brain for having to ask me that question?
Damn it!
Idiot?
Damn it! I knew it! This is why. Get in here! Get in here!
Also, it was your hip.
It wasn't. Oh no! Wait! Get back!
Wait,
It
was it?
ribs,
I thought it was your side.
asshole.
Your
Clap
ribs.
'em.
Oh, whatever. I'm sorry. I was an inch off.
All
So
right.
here you are, hanging out. Apocalypse.
Yeah, man. So nutty thing. Everyone we ever loved is gone. So you figure what? 1 in 1,000 survived. So let's think of everyone we've ever met and pick the people we'd hope most are dead and assume they're alive.
Okay.
Is that
I
the
mean,
first
as much
step?
as much as I'd love to indulge making this into yet another exercise of your enemies list, like, can we actually do a little bit of apocalypse planning here?
Well, I figured that, look, it's been a few months since I've done a podcast and you're here. I just figured we would just night attack it up. I've already pressed record. I'm saving
So
all
wait.
this.
We're now officially like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in this global drama.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what are we gonna do? I already have a farm in the backyard. I'm harvesting potatoes because I've reread The Martian 4 or 5 times. A lot of it doesn't apply, but all my poop is in the backyard, and I'm growing potatoes. What else? What else is there to do?
As Justin looks at the mounds and mounds of canned food in empty cans in a corner covered in flies.
As a matter of fact,
growing my own food, how much of your calories are actually coming from those potatoes?
I actually used all those cans to shape the garden. They're as good as bricks, man. They're nice and solid.
Okay, so we're not going to live at your house forever, right? We're not just going to, this isn't just going to be great gardens with the two of us.
I mean, I don't know. How bad would that be? I already have photographs of our glory days. Look, this is us. I printed this out before the power went out. It's you and me live on stage at Dragon Con. Remember that time?
Okay, I do. We need to reconnect with society.
There is no society. Oh, wait. You're saying we need to find an audience member. We just need one. And then we can go back on a road trip.
Fine, let's go with that. Who said the glory days had to be dead, Brian? We need to find an audience.
All right. Well,
I like the idea that Brian's got like 6 or 7 mangy dogs living in his house that he puts into the podcast room. They all have chairs.
Well, I you know what? I thought maybe this might happen. So I've got these giant water, or I have the water purifiers. I stole all these survival kits. I got this ATV. I got these solar panels to recharge. I got this whole van that's able to crawl over debris. Which direction you want to go, Justin? Which way do we go to look for more people?
Well, I mean, I would say we probably should go downtown, right? That's where people would probably gather.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we should play the smaller venues first. I don't know.
I just think that you're still scarred that there might be traffic.
I mean, the construction. I mean, I guarantee you they haven't fixed Mopac yet. It's still
Like
insane.
even with 0.1% of the population, right? Still like, I mean, should we wait until 7?
In all seriousness, though, it does seem like that's just sniper trap heaven downtown, right?
Who's killing each other?
I-
For what?
Whoever remains. I've seen.
Well,
the
that brings
movies.
up an interesting question, though, is that on one hand, you're like, why are people doing that? But then a lot of people probably flipped out and gotten kind of nuts. The survivors may have gone wacky, but so Brian, let's talk about your choice of vehicle. You say, all right, you guys are determined to go on the road. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, okay, so there's a bunch of different thoughts here, right? The problem is if you do anything motorized, you are telegraphing your position to any marauder within like literally a mile to 4 miles distance. Max.
Well, let me ask you a question though about the marauders. What are they marauding? What are they? A marauder implies they want something from you, but when there's like 99.99% of everybody's dead.
Let me give you a hint. We're talking about a world where there's all the canned food you can eat, all the recorded entertainment you can watch. There's only one thing you can't get without other physical people. And my guess is that's what the marauders are going to want is physical people.
They want your supple flesh, Brian.
Exactly. Or my old squishy flesh. My guess is they don't care. My guess is that is better than the corpse or the livestock.
So Brian's fear of a post-apocalypse is rape.
A little bit.
Oh, wait, I thought that wasn't a live comedy? That's not what you're talking about?
Yeah, you were
one
describing
thing.
applause?
No. I mean, the question is, it's not what you know they want, it's what you don't know they want. So anyway, in the zombie survival guide, it suggested that you should ride a bike because it's quiet, maneuverable. You can get around everywhere.
You're an open target, easy to be taken off with a Garrett line across the street. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
I mean, but the other one is just an invitation to you're a noise machine.
We're not going after zombies, right? Zombies are not our problem. Like, yes, somebody might stalk us. That is a fear of leaving the house. But I would much rather be in a car where somebody could take a shot at us with a gun and we won't immediately die.
All right, fine. Here's my compromise. I found this over here. There's an ice cream truck. That way, we're playing the jaunty music, and if there are survivors, they'll know that sweet, sweet candy awaits them.
No,
and also, like the zombie apocalypse guide. Well, I think that's a horrible idea because what happens? I turn the corner and there is a wall of zombies. You know, I'm in the horrific scenario where there's thousands and thousands of zombies, not one. I'm dead. How about an electric vehicle if you want silence?
Well, I mean, you know, if you could just pluck one off the tree, but the conceit is what you have on hand, and so I don't know that
I live in L.A. I go right down the street. I'm good.
All right. Well,
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what. How would you say there's got to be a Prius in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't just go run up into somebody's house that's already dead and.
I think down the road, Mom and Dad got a golf cart. You can get that. throw
I
a
think
solar
you guys
panel on top.
if you want to go distance, you need motorized vehicle. Why not make an armored vehicle? You know, why not take something like a Winnebago, whatever, put plate, protect it. You can put tons of cans of
But that's
fuel in there.
massive trade-off for maneuverability, right? You can't go off-road. You can't skirt around stuff. You're
Okay,
you're
all right,
prime
all right.
target
Let's
for
two
entrapment.
stages, right? First things first. You are about 15 minutes outside of town. We want to investigate Austin, and then if Austin proves to be inhospitable and we feel that we need to go somewhere else, then we grab ourselves another larger vehicle that can go for highway driving.
Yeah, that works for me.
I'm building my armored RV because wherever I go, I'm going to be living in it. You know, I'm not going to be going to some town and like leaving my vehicle behind. I'm living in my vehicle.
Okay, why would you pick like the biggest gas guzzlingest comfort-based vehicle to get
Because
around?
it could be
in?
my home for the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, yeah, if you're in a survivalist mode though, you can do that in a station wagon. You don't need no RV. I mean,
I think that before you start going stir crazy, I think that if you know you're going to be stuck inside of it for several days.
Okay, I will have the power of turning left, whereas you will have the power of wishing for highways.
There's no other cars, Brian.
You're telling me there's not cars littered all over the GD road?
I think that, you know, people stayed home, pulled over, died.
Yeah.
You know? Very few people just died on the spot in their car. It took a couple hours to do it, so they're all like went home for the most part.
I mean, all right, if we're drawing if we're drawing the type of
if
plague,
we're drawing parallels to every time there's been outbreaks or epidemics, what the behavior is, or hurricanes and stuff like that, the streets are pretty empty.
okay, fair enough. Okay, so the streets are pretty empty all through the world.
Well, first, all right, do we have anything? Well, number one, DM, when I came from Cleveland to Austin, did I run into people? Like, did I survive barely? Like what was my experience?
You saw sporadic people. You did see people. People weren't really overtly hostile. They were, if you didn't go near a supermarket or whatever near somebody else's territory, because that's where people would probably hold up, would be, instead of like trying to take the food to their house, they would just go to where the food is and protect that. So, you might pass a Costco that you see is all boarded up, and there are people inside of there.
Yeah.
And as far as approaching or whatever, and that's the thing, you're afraid to approach places like that because everybody's this mix. They want to reconnect, but they also want to protect their resources. And your fear is that, like, man, if I get too close to there, they might have somebody with a sniper on a roof, and you might periodically be going through towns and stuff, and you pass, let's say, Costco, and you'd see somebody on the roof, and you're like, there's somebody there with the sniper rifle, and better to just stay clear.
Okay, all right, so there is it's not like everybody's turned into like purge behavior, right?
No, not you, but you've not. There's so many few people left that you really haven't made contact with anybody because everybody's been hiding from everybody else.
So think about it this way: if we have only 1 in 1,000 survivors, then that means in all of Austin, in the greater Austin area, there are only 1,000 living individuals. So picture in all of downtown, you're looking at maybe 300, 400 people, which, you could picture in a high school auditorium. I guess all of Austin could fit in a high school auditorium at this point. That's going to be hard to even encounter another person.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. It does seem like trust has to start somewhere.
I'm gonna say that when you meet somebody, chances are 50-50. They're more than likely they will be trusting and they will be kind. But your concern is that the first time you saw a Costco and you walked near there, you heard a rifle shot. You tend to avoid people because even though most people will be kind, even if only 10% are hyper aggressive.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me like the first thing that needs to happen is trade, and really even marauders are looking to engage in a type of trade, just a highly unfair one, where they take all your resources and give you nothing. Like, no matter what you have, everyone has some things and wants other things, and it seems like a marketplace.
Cards, by the way.
I don't know. That's all Justin.
I don't. I'm not doing anything.
It seems like the first stable place to meet other people would be like a de facto marketplace. Because going back to Richard Garriott, when he made the video game Ultima Online, there was a lot of stuff that was thought out, and a lot of stuff was just not even considered. And one of the things is, where would people go to trade all of their stuff that they looted off of corpses? And there was just this one corner behind, off to the side in Britannia, that everybody, no matter what server it was on, everybody knew that's where you could go to get stuff, and you would just run around shouting and trading stuff, because in the city you couldn't kill each other. Outside, everyone could kill everyone, and that was, the game highly favored the killing of other people and looting all of their stuff. And if you got killed and looted, it highly favored hiding in the forest until you watch someone die and then run out and loot their corpse and then run to the city where you would be safe. So I would imagine something like that might emerge in Austin if there was some power that declared this area safe for trade.
So you go to downtown Austin, and you're looking for your market, you're looking for your whatever. It's not there. You see people watching you. You see people peering out, but nobody. It's not there.
I didn't want to go down here to begin with. I defer to you, Justin. What are we gonna do?
I mean, we have to reach out. I mean, like the goal is to meet people on some sort of neutral ground, right? Unless, I mean, that's if we want to reconnect with society. I just kind of feel like that's the natural. At some point, we are either going to run into a resource problem or we're going to go stir crazy. It's a miracle mathematically that we're both alive, right?
Yeah.
So we have to find that out. Also, we got to stock up. Want to know why? Because we're going on a road trip to LA. See if Andrew's alive.
So I notice how like Brian's instincts weren't like, well, let's start this place for people to meet.
Oh no. No.
That's why there's not a place to meet, because people are like, oh, I'm not gonna do it.
Well, yeah, this is why you'll get that shepherd mentality. It's going to be a lot like the American South, where it's we're not farmers where we grow our crops and trust that year over year we'll get results kind of like we did the year beforehand. We're going to be like shepherds in that our entire fortunes are on us or near us at all times. And we have to view everyone else with mistrust. And we need to do things like display power and send warning shots to let people know we're serious, because we can't rely on calling the cops or whatever.
All right. So you guys decide you're going to go west.
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't. If we're going, I mean, first of all, why we got to go anywhere? We got an
Thanks,
aquifer.
Brian.
I mean, I'm just saying. Convince me there. I don't. Maybe we hear messages of where people are.
Nope, you don't know.
See.
I think
so
the
what do
first
you want to
mission probably
do?
would be
Just put
Justin
yourself
would
in a
like,
sarcophagus and call it a day?
No. Look, we got an aquifer with relatively clean water. We've got we've got, certainly there's enough food throughout the city to last us.
Well, like let's say Justin, for whatever reason, Austin was closest, but now he needs to go back to Oakland to check on Ashley.
Yeah. Well,
he's like, Brian, I need to go to Oakland to check on Ashley. Will you come with me?
So how are we going to get there? Are we going to go straight across the desert? Are we going to go up through the Rocky Mountains? Or that's a perilous.
You're going to drive on roads for one.
Well, yeah, but how? By carrying all our fuel? And I mean, I can't get to the West Coast on one tank of gas. We're just going to hope and forage the way.
It's only a month or two in. There's still going to be gas in gas stations.
Yeah. All right. Well,
diesel.
Okay. Well, then I guess it's a road trip. How do we want to get there, Justin?
I like Brian's like, if chemistry is fighting against me, then
no.
I guess...
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is I've played the Oregon Trail. I know how this ends. I mean, that's not an insignificant trip.
Also, your new name is Poop Butt, like all the other people that characters that I had in the Oregon Trail.
So I could put he croaked in his Converses. All right, so I assume, even though you need to get up north, I guess we will take I-10, because that's going to be there's, if anything's blocked on the road, that's all flat. It's going to be hot as hell, but we could just drive off road for giant chunks of it. And then we're going to have to go up, the PCH?
So you're gonna stop. If you're coming by my place, then you might as well check on me too.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna go to both. We're gonna check on people. Yeah, so we do that, and then we take the 5.
All right. So hey, all right, let's get. All right. So we get all the way. I assume.
No, you just made the decision. We'll pick this up next week.
Oh, damn it. Okay, we're going west. Maybe we'll find Andrew Main. Damn. Can we at least practice our act on the road?
We'll find out what some of the other implications of this global plague were. What else happened next week?
Oh,
next
man.
time.
I'll tell you what, this is a keep them coming back kind of show. The kind of show that you should reward by going to patreon.com/weirdthings.
Hells yeah, dude. It keeps us regular. You are our Metamucil. Yeah, we want to make this a priority to do it every single week for you guys. We don't care how much you contribute. We would just love it if you join the ranks of the proud and be a patron. Literally anything. If you met us at an airport, would you buy us a $5 beer? If so, we'd love to have it.
Tell you what, look at that. Brian, how many patrons we got?
Yeah, we got 420, although it was a lot funner when we had 666. So I wouldn't mind asking people to give us a little boosty there. A little bustier.
Thank you to everybody who does support the show. And yeah, you guys are great.
Hey,
Patreon.com/weirdthings.
So I'm going to ask a question, and my guess is Andrew Main knows, or you, Justin, know more than me. And if not the two of us, then maybe it'll just be an open-ended question we can ask somebody to educate us on. But I was thinking about, like, what's a weird things scenario that's tied in with the Republican National Convention or just the general hotbed of contention that politics is these days. And last night, there was a Reddit post linking to a Christopher Hitchens documentary in which he described in detail the horrifying way Saddam Hussein took power live on television by first having an obviously tortured individual come out and obviously defeated, who confess his crimes against the state and ask to be executed. But before I do, let me name all my conspirators. And then as names were happened, abject panic goes through the crowd. And people, some of them, in order to save themselves, start shouting, glory to Saddam Hussein. He's the bestest forever. Everybody, hooray, Saddam. And I don't know if I heard this part right, but it sounded like he said the other half that weren't named as conspirators were handed weapons and told to kill the others. Yep. Is that what happened? Live on television?
He wasn't a nice guy.
Yeah, that's. I
don't know, guys. I saw a documentary and they were flying kites and stuff in Baghdad.
I mean, understand that Saddam Hussein is, he was never somebody who came from the world of diplomacy. He came from a strong man. Like he was far more Tony Soprano than he was a politician. And this is the kind of stuff that happens.
Well,
right?
I guess
this is some like Heisenberg stuff.
What was extraordinary to me to read this was, I guess in my lifetime, I've never seen media used in that kind of naked, honest display of power grab. There's always been this veneer, even with a wink and a nod, where it's like, hey, we're not going to, we're going to pretend, like we're really, we're the ones under attack here. But it's like, that doesn't sound like the way that went at all. He was just all like, yeah, no, I'm killing everyone who doesn't agree.
Well, but I mean, it was in a form of a tribunal, though. I mean, it was a trial. That was the context was this was a trial, and we see it for what it is, but the construct around what it was this was legal, this was the rule of law being applied, that there was these enemies of the state, not him, and they're being tried and they're found guilty, and that was these things always happen in some form of some context that on paper says, oh well, this is following, law and order, when reality is that it's, not.
Man, makes me want to watch that documentary. But,
yeah.
Wow.
chilling. It's absolutely creepy when you get into, the particulars of all things. And, we see that. So we just had, an attempted coup in Turkey. And when Erdogan, when he got back and, when it was defeated, he's promising vengeance upon his enemies. You're thinking like, man, that's not a Western response. The Western response is, you're going to face the rule of law. We're going to take it to court, where he's basically planning blood vengeance on all of them, which is wow, that's a very different approach than we on the surface at least have in a democracy, where we're like, you will be tried by the state. You're going to have your, chance, and then, we'll make sure you're going to, get punished. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, a coup for which he, the president, claims was masterminded in the Poconos, the home of the Borscht Belt comedy circuit.
Wait, for
Turkey
reals?
coup?
Yeah.
I'd prefer a pastrami, but
That's amazing. Because that's where I met. Or Bonnie and I both worked at the same camp at different years in the Pocono Mountains. That's amazing.
Yeah. There is a cleric who was a former ally that now is exiled here in America, and the president. That is a story that, because I've been heading out here to Cleveland, I have not had an opportunity to follow as close as I would like. But I would not be shocked if we continued to get more and more information on exactly what that coup was, because there seemed to be some fairly credible signs that point to, maybe it might not have been as legitimate as it was portrayed.
When you say legitimate, I guess a legitimate coup would be like a well-organized one versus
this
sort
is
of an F-troop thing.
There are theories that he staged this as a coup to fail.
I see.
That the president staged it as a coup to fail, and that him putting it on somebody that isn't even in Turkey or a government official is his way of saying, well, look, these rabble rousers, try to tell you guys. Anyway, back to me killing or imprisoning 6,000 people that I probably didn't like anyway.
Oof. Saying it's some kind of job. There's a word for it.
I'm going to change the topic, if I may, from
please.
politics and global events.
Yeah.
To global events.
Oh, okay, good.
It has been an amazing couple weeks watching the spread of that virus that Brian brought up at the top of the show, the Pokemon Go. Mm-hmm. You can tell how much I am not of that generation by the number of times I will call it Pokemon.
Calm it down, study. Chuck Tingle.
What's that?
I said, calm it down, Chuck Tingle.
You know the Chuck Tingle books, right?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll save it for after.
Let's just say he is a fine Hugo Award nominated purveyor of hilariously titled gay erotica.
Yes.
But that was
always almost lately getting a lot of headlines for titling them after current events about like the Brexit and so on.
Okay, then. So, as I was saying, we've been watching the spread of this Pokemon, and it's been fascinating because if you want an example of, when you talk about virility and you talk about watching something just all of a sudden overnight, it's everywhere. This has been an amazing study of that. Now, I will attest to the addictive properties of the company that came up with Pokemon Go did Ingress first.
Yeah, sure.
And my buddy Peter plays Ingress, and it drives me nuts because he will be driving and we'll be playing Ingress. We'll be walking along and he'll be playing Ingress. And I will, Peter's been on his podcast, and I'll be like, hey, so anyhow, and he'll be like, what? And he'll look up from his phone. I don't mean to out him here, but it is like, he just he quit smoking recently. I'm like, great. If you quit Ingress, be more impressed.
Yeah. To put it in perspective, now Ingress already is highly, highly addictive, but that is with a manufactured backstory that essentially is like the Enlightened versus anarchist, whatever. You take the well-beloved 20, 30-year property of Pokemon and put it on there. Here is an actual stampede in New York that of when a Vulpix or something?
A Vaporeon.
Yeah, Vaporeon.
Vaporeon manifests, and everyone they got to catch them all. They
Well, that is a very high level Pokemon, and it is a common leader in the gyms, which is basically what you do. If you are under a rock and you don't know how this game is played, effectively
So,
it is geographically based.
We're watching a flood of people across a street, all with their phones in front of them. It is a Black Mirror episode. I mean, it's just
it really is.
and it's I'm gonna say yes, there are some girls there, but I'm gonna say that they only appear to be Asian.
Well, my daughter would be among them if she could be. She's already way into it and already figuring out what's where. She was all excited to go to the movies, not so much to see The Secret Life of Pets, but because at the bar next door, 400 Rabbits, there was a gym. If only she was one level higher, she could go to the Pokemon gym.
Wow. So this is a very interesting. I find this fascinating for several reasons. One is we're watching this spread. We're taking a highly addictive process, and as Brian, as you pointed out, we take this 30-year-old franchise that is this incredibly familiar. Everybody know, like I know none of these characters. So when you say this, I'm like, okay. You take these fascinating but endearing characters to people. You tie that together. You get that nostalgia click pop in the brain. Put those together and you have an amazing phenomenon plus augmented reality. We're watching, this mass participation in a huge augmented reality game.
Yeah, which is
you know what? For the 5% that don't know, do you want to explain to them quick, how the game works?
Yeah, so basically here's how the game works in a nutshell. Effectively all over your world if you play the game, the main interface is think of it as a Google Maps kind of interface, and you walk around and find two different types of interactions: a Pokestop, which are all various different physical landmarks. You check them for supplies, Pokeballs, power ups, stuff like that, and then randomly. As if you were just literally walking through you're an RPG when you are attacked by a gang or something, a Pokemon will appear. You engage it and try to catch it with the Pokeballs. The AR comes in because if you leave AR on, which does drain battery, you will see the Pokemon literally in front of you, wherever your camera's pointing.
Well, and staying in one space, like you can lean left, lean right. Like like I finally got it loaded, and I'm in the minivan, just getting it started, and I look, and they're sitting on the steering wheel. No matter where I aim the camera, it's just sitting there on the steering wheel. I'm like, oh, I guess I gotta catch this first one. Gotta catch the first one was the original commandment of Pokemon.
Exactly.
But it's here's the thing. These things partly, the question is trend or fad right here. I mean, this has to be a fad, right?
I mean, at this point, we are not talking about a popular game. We have never seen a game explode like this. It was a week ago that it passed more active users than Twitter. It has retention rates that are double what we consider addicting games like Clash of Clans or Angry Birds or Hearthstone or something like that. This is a social phenomenon, the likes of which we really haven't seen before. Around where I live in Oakland, around Lake Merritt is a very active Pokestop where there's a lot of Pokemon around the lake regularly, and it is 24/7 people around the lake. I go running in the morning, I see them. We go walking around at night to play Pokemon, me and Ashley, we see them. The last night there was one particular area that was pretty hot, easily had 50 people just standing around playing the game. So yes, it will certainly cool down at some point. Whether or not we are at that point, I think remains to be seen. But if it were to completely, start to atrophy, the failure, like the absolute failure point of their trajectory now is Clash of Clans, right? Like it's still bigger than the biggest game that we've ever seen on mobile.
Yeah.
So
I see. I see. So you're saying like the number 2 slot is so far beneath them right
Yeah.
now.
Let me throw out some thoughts here. One is right, so Niantic, which was a Google lab, which is the ones behind the engineering behind it. One is like somebody at Google right now is going, man, if only we'd been able to tie this into Google Glass.
Yep.
We'd have sold 1 billion of those. 2 is thinking forward, because I think that the augmented reality is obviously a big part of why this, I mean, it's a lot of reasons why it's successful, but what makes it fun and neat, and rather just a mapping kind of game, is the idea that when you look through your phone as your lens, you see these things there, you are there, you're part of the game, you're playing the game. Not in some level of abstraction in gameplay, but like you're really there. If we move forward and we say we have Microsoft HoloLens or some augmented reality game, what does this mean when you start playing Minecraft Go?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Go downtown to the city park where people are building things, and you go to a place and you build something, it stays there until somebody tears it down.
Well, and so real quick side, Jack, is of course the sensationalist headlines we're going to get. We're going to get people who are doing dangerous things. People who are being lured into situations by predators who are using Pokemon Go or whatever. The picture for me, the Venn diagram of the demographics who spent the last 20 years complaining that technology just keeps everyone indoors, and the demographics of the people who are now likely to start complaining that Pokemon Go is.
I don't think it's worth talking. I mean, it's like that when tens of millions of people are playing a game. Yeah, stuff's going to happen statistically. It's not even to me. It's like, yeah, whatever.
No, that's not my point. My point is finally this is a game that is designed to do one thing: to get kids to go out and play. And my guess is the exact people who are going to complain about that are the exact people who are complaining that kids weren't going out and playing.
I mean, I think there is certainly a wry irony considering how how much there has been media hand-wringing about video games pretty much my entire life. That this seems to be almost the exact opposite of that conventional argument, right? This is something that you basically can get free high value Pokemon if you walk a 5K.
Right.
Like if you walk a 10K, if you walk 2 kilometers, like these are almost, if it were marketed as a fitness game, I don't know if you would have to do much tweaking to it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, I hear you. I just, I'm more excited about the discussion of where does this go, not what's going to be the stupid reaction from people around it, because it's always going to be that. I was saying on Twitter that like the thing that the news is waiting for is the first Tesla autopilot Pokemon Go accident.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Finally, the headline to beat all headlines.
Yeah. So what's next? So here you're going to face eventually. It theoretically could be wrong. And by personal experience, people playing that same sort of level of interactivity, it doesn't diminish. But they're going to implement new features in the games. They're going to get that. It's going to change gameplay. This is going to fundamentally change gameplay. Every other property, people out there, Disney's going to be looking at, how do we do this? Do we do a Disney character version of this? Disney everywhere. I mean, that's going to be, they're very, very quick to sort of jump on and try to replicate that. Is that what we're going to see?
I'm going to say yes. However, unfortunately, I suspect that Pokemon Go is the World of Warcraft of this. I think that the World of Warcraft was maybe 5% better than every other MMO available at the time. But because it was 5% better, it's the one everybody collapsed around, and where their friends were when all their relationships were part of, they wanted to do that because other people were doing that at this window of time when you could still charge $14.95 a month to be a member in a world. I can see, Ingress did come before, and it had limited, very popular success for at the time. But now this is going to be so crushingly good. I don't see. I feel like this is the World of Warcraft of AR collecting geographically based games.
I mean, I think that it is its own genre, though, and it will be flooded by a year from now. We're going to get a million different versions of it, and some will be good and most will be terrible. But I do think that it is a genre of game now, because what this game does is prove that people will get the hell out of their house. and that is a fundamentally different kind of the fact that this is a success and not a niche success like Ingress was. Ingress, by and large, I think, I mean, which to put in context for people, the difference between this Pokemon Go and Ingress is effectively competitive Foursquare check-ins.
Right.
You are taking one place for blue and one place for red by basically going there and being there. What I could see is A, evolution for Pokemon, and B, as a game, and B, man, I mean, if the WWE released their knockoff version, I'd get it. I'd play it tomorrow. I would love it. With you could collect your different wrestlers and then pit them against each other. I think that'd be super fun. But this is a new genre.
That's an interesting idea. Is the idea of, like you said, is that the what happens next is like, such and such, we got enough of these. There's going to be a fight, at 7 p.m. between these wrestlers downtown in the park or whatever. We got to go watch that. I mean, that's. I think my guess is, like, Brian, I hear your point absolutely about this thing, but I think that it is the beginning of augmented reality, really of augmented reality gameplay. That this introduces us to the idea of leave your house, go to these places, location based and all that. And kind of the vision that we've talked about in books and stuff. I think that starts here, but I think that it doesn't end here.
Well, I'll tell you what it makes me think of is that scene in Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, which so many people I talk to about how they should read Snow Crash, but they're like, oh, I'm just afraid it'll be dated. It's fun to see how much he gets right and how much is going to become right. I still highly recommend it. But one of the things they derisively call somebody is a gargoyle because he's in a public place, but he's not disconnected. He's got goggles on, and it's just sort of rude and creepy. And he's aware of what's going on, but he's not engaging in that animalistic way that most of us do. I could totally see. Let's say there's a big Lady Gaga concert coming, and everyone's going to attend the concert, but Picture, I don't know, 5 more years from now, picture something the size and shape of the Vive, because you could wear the Vive and it's got a camera on it. Picture it being completely self-contained. If you could experience the entire concert not seeing everybody's dumb, stupid physical bodies around you, but instead seeing their super rad, avatars that they built out before they even left for the concert, the dress ups, the awesome mashup. Someone's in Iron Man armor, someone else is, 20 feet tall or whatever. There's going to be a divide, and it'll be a fringe thing at first where everyone's like, that's really weird that these guys are going around with masks over their face, watching the whole concert that way. But then, as people experience it, I think they're going to want to do more and more of it.
I think there might be part of that, but I think that eliminates a big reason for why people go to concerts.
Well, here's what I do think is, if we're to extrapolate what is novel and successful right now and gauge whether or not it continues or it tapers off, it's amazing to walk around the lake late at night and just meet people and see people and say hi and have something in common. There is this warm social element that even though people, all they have to do is be within this geographical halo, right? And yet they stand next to each other and they talk to each other and they swap strategies and they ask about, what they're doing and what level they're at. Like, this is unique. This is amazing, and for it to happen spontaneously and almost on demand because it's so popular right now, I think that there is something to that experience. And as a game crafter, thinking about, well, how do you cater to that? How do you make a game that almost drives more into that? Like, maybe information sharing is part of the game, or trading, which is right now they say is coming to Pokemon Go, but is not there yet. Maybe trading becomes a whole other thing. I mean, that's why part of me thinks this Pokemon Go phase, I don't think that it's done growing, because it's a cool game, and I think the novelty of it will eventually slow down. But if they add in specifically trading and specifically you being able to battle your friends, which right now you're not able to do, that's a whole nother realm.
Well,
that's a whole nother factor.
Think about what happens the first time, let's say it's Pokemon Go. It doesn't have to be that, but it could be some success or whatever. But just as ReCAPTCHA has transformed a chore into a universal benefit to help scan books, just as Duolingo is translating web pages and making them more available for everyone else. If you have a game that rewards going to geographic places all over, imagine the next time you don't have to get an Amber Alert that the whole world ignores on their phone. Instead, they work together. They contract with Pokemon Go, and they have a spread of an area. They make an alert, and they incentivize people to go to certain areas to accomplish important things. I mean, it could be one of a tremendous boon for society.
I mean, I think just getting people out and having them interact at a bare minimum is something. I mean, interaction, we know as internet folk, is kind of undersold as a benefit. But the fact that this has really just gotten people out of the house on such a regular level. John Teasdale, my co-creator on The Contender, has a tendency to get a little. I mean, Andrews met him, just recently. He has, just gets very excited about things, and definitely spent 20 miles worth of walking within a day looking for Pokemon last week. Just being out there and seeing people, and it's just like that's a game that's got its that's got grips into you, and I'm glad that it's that and not being inside. I mean, if you're really, here's the trend piece that I'm curious to see is like, what is the collective calories burned on Pokemon Go? And I'm sure they'd probably be able to give you some kind of number, even if it's just on the walking statistics.
I'm sure we'll find out. I think it's a fascinating story and it'll be an ongoing story. But I think it's time to wrap up this Weird Things with some picks.
Hey, I call first C's because I watched the first episode of Stranger Things on Netflix, and I am digging it. The whole world's talking about it. It dropped 2 days ago. It's got a 9.3, 9.4 rating on IMDb. It's set in 1983. Starts with a missing kid. There's a supernatural. There's one kid goes missing, and another strange kid shows up. You got kids riding around on bicycles. Feels a little bit like Stand By Me or E.T. It's got that Spielberg type glow about it. It's nostalgic and well told. That's an important thing. Turns out just the setting and the plot are not the only things. You need to tell a story and get me engaged, and this one definitely is.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. I have that on my watch list, so I'm looking forward to watching that. Justin?
Oh, man.
I'll jump right in, give you some time. I just finished a really, really interesting book. And it originally came out like 1999, and then they did a new version of it like in 2006. And part of the conceit of the book when it came out was saying, hey, you think this is new, but we went through all of this before, and we're going to talk about why this is so similar. And the book is The Victorian Internet, and it's about the birth of the telegraph. And it's fascinating when you see the comparison between the telegraph and the spread of the internet, both the problems they faced, the solutions they came up with. It's by Tom Standage. So you have telegraphs. So you have one person on one end, a receiver on the other end, and they start building these nodes so you can transmit information. What did it mean to live in a world before, when it took weeks to get news from, even a week or so to hear from one part of the country to the other, and weeks to hear what was going on in Europe? That was the world pre-telegraph. The world was a very, very far off, distant place. And then in the matter of a few years, all of a sudden we were connected by this magical device that was able to do transatlantic cables, et cetera, which united the world. And people predicted, well, this is going to bring about world peace finally. I don't know, that didn't quite work out, but it was this birth of communications, how much it was like the internet because of the way the nodes worked and transmitting information back and forth. People wanted to send encrypted information because if you were a business and you wanted to tell your supplier that you wanted to order X number of some product and you didn't want your competitors knowing, you needed to come up with a form of encrypting your messages. The problem was the telegraph companies and the government didn't like encrypted messages. They wanted to know what people are saying. So they tried to limit the kind of encryption that they could use, and people found their ways around it because, well, that got broken and that doesn't make any sense now. People was very easy to decipher what was going on there. There were ways in which, how do you transfer money digitally? Because somebody said, if I have a bank in Boston and I have a bank in New York and somebody wants to send money to somebody in Boston. Used to be you'd send like a letter and go through all this, but we could do that on a telegraph. But we need to have a way for my bank manager in Boston to know that this is an authentic request to give this guy who shows up here money. And that's how Western Union was born. Was Western Union figured out, like, we'll have 2 sets of books, we'll have our own encryption scheme, so we can send this information across an open network. And then on the other end, we'll know how to decipher, know if it's legitimate or not, because each time we use one code, we'll cross one off. One-time pad, these hashes and things like this. This is where a lot of this originated from. Many of the solutions that came from the internet, a lot of we talk about, it came from the military, like some of the technological stuff. A lot of it came from actually the birth of the telegraph in the 19th century.
Well,
so
not just
highly recommend the book. It gets into just you get the early days of Thomas Edison, and I know that it's been invoked kind of like, Edison was a total jerk towards Tesla. We know this. We agree. This Edison was a guy with his moral scale swung back and forth, but Edison was a genius. Edison absolutely was a mechanical genius. You see the early stages of Edison and his involvement in there, and he was like at the New York Stock Exchange. He's like a 20-year-old telegraph operator, and he was one of the fastest there was. Partially because he was deaf, it made him easier just to focus on the dots and dashes. How he proposed to his wife through the telegraph. But he's at the stock exchange, and the whole thing breaks, and he figures out how to fix the problem. And the guy who engineered it's like, do you want a job? I'll pay you, and then Edison starts off building his own laboratories and stuff. And it's just amazing story. So I highly recommend it. It's called The Victorian Internet.
Yeah, and you, of course, the high-minded, important stuff like encryption and all that stuff. By the way, I bought it while you're describing it. I put that on my Audible queue. But I was fascinated to find out that all of the translators had their own version of meme speak. LOL and all of that stuff. They were just in a chat room all day when they weren't.
So the telegraph operators would be sitting there. They're the ones communicating back and forth, and they got to know who was on the other end. They'd have they like to sit like one line because it might be somebody they've never met but they got along with, and it's like IRC or whatever. They said that they could tell who was on the line transmitting because of the way they dot and dash. They said that you could tell the difference between a man or a woman because of the way they did that.
Wow.
There was like 1 out of 3 telegraph operators was actually a woman. And so it was a very much a precursor towards a lot of, information network specialists today. But yeah, they had, they would have meetings. The telegraph offices would have a countrywide meeting where they would, one person would be in there and send a signal out and go through all the other telegraph offices. And they felt as connected, to each other that, then as we do today. Now, again, this is where a small group of people have this technology, but yeah, they had jokes. They said that like most of the jokes being said back and forth were, gross or anatomical and of nature or whatever. But it's just, you see this and you go, man, like people will do what people will do, even if it was 150 years ago.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You got a pick, Justin?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Scott Adams book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. It was recommended to me by Andrew, and I am very much enjoying it. Scott Adams, of course, the creator of Gilbert, walks you through his failures in life and specifically why he has decided that it is not goals that matter. It is systems and the building and adherence to those systems, is very funny, and he is very, very open and honest, and I've enjoyed the book thoroughly so far.
How long ago did this come out?
I am not sure. Andrew, do you know?
I don't know. I'm sure if Bryce scrolls down on the Amazon page.
2013. Yeah.
2013.
All right, I'm going to grab that too. Audible.
Yeah, I think that there's a big long jag into his dietary advice and stuff, which I just sort of droned on for me and I tuned out, but I thought I loved his talk about the goals, the idea of why systems are better and what he means by that, and understanding the difference between that. And then he gets into his whole idea of affirmations, which it's easy to misinterpret that as something else. But I know Brian, you're a big believer in the idea of an affirmation, and I think a value of affirmations is that it reminds you what your focus is. It wires your brain towards what your opportunities you're looking for. If you say, I'm going to do this, then everything you encounter, you're putting through that context.
Yeah, I think the biggest power of those things is, we're story-driven people. That's why we love moral lessons wrapped up in stories. That's why our one tribe will tell another tribe that this area is dangerous by telling stories and so on. And I think that we tell stories even to ourselves, and it matters what you decide in that regard. But I'm excited to hear his take on it.
Yeah, he's got a great. I think his blog is really interesting too, and that's worth checking out too. He's not a person you have to agree with everything he says, but he's got a very interesting take on things, which is one of the hallmarks of people I find is interesting. I love Christopher Hitchens because he wasn't a person that I agreed with everything Hitchens said, but I always liked his take. I always said, okay, I see what you're saying here, and this is a very interesting way to think about things. And I think in this environment, we have this. Matt Ridley has an essay where he talks about how we live inside of our echo chambers and how the internet's made it even easier to do that, and how we're so unexposed to other ideas now that we just react to other ideas with outright hostility instead of, oh, that's interesting. That's a thought, I disagree with that, but I think it's a very interesting take. But we don't even want that now. We just don't want to hear, we don't want to know that other viewpoints even exist. And that's not a healthy mental attitude. I think it's a sign of kind of a closed-mindedness when you're like, I don't even want to know that there's another point of view.
Right.
So, gentlemen, it's been weird.
Hey, good show.
All right.
Great jorb, everybody.
Yeah. Are you going to be joining us for After Things too, Justin?
I will not. I got to get back there to shoot stuff for the shows tomorrow. So
Hey,
I'm going to run off now.
How soon and what links should we be making lots of noise about? Because I would love it if every time there was any news about, because there's going to be a million things people are going to want to talk about, and I would love to know where to have our home team.
Okay,
push.
so right now you can on Apple TV, the new Apple TV with apps, and Amazon Fire TV, you can download BitTorrent Live. That will have the BitTorrent News Network, and that will be probably the best and easiest way on a television to stream it.
Yeah.
And as of Monday morning, there will be an iOS 10 app that you can use it to play on all Mac computers. Beyond that, just between you, me, and the wall,
Still live?
Yeah. Let's just say I wouldn't mind if it showed up on DiamondClub.tv.
Ah, very cool. And
they're in the process of rolling out apps, and right now, the goal is to push people toward the apps, but for markets for which the apps are not available, I think people are really going to want to see a lot of this coverage.
Yeah, right on.
I downloaded it on my Apple TV last week once you made the announcement, and it's a pretty cool app. It loads pretty fast, and
I was it was really funny. We went and bought an Apple TV yesterday, and I turned it on and I authenticated it, and there in big, live, loud, living color was Twit and Lee Laporte during the Tech Guy.
It's the first thing that shows up when you install it.
And then I changed the channel, and there was a countdown clock for the new network that I'm on.
Yeah. And you do have to have a BitTorrent account, but it's free. You can make it on your phone even. So
yeah, it was super. I mean, it's effectively the same process that you have to do for HBO Go.
Yeah.
So you enter a thing and then you get it.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, we'll let you go. I'm going to bug you about your schedule for Night Attack later.
Okay, so, effectively the dealer's choice. Either we can wait until the speakers are done speaking on Tuesday and probably go either close to on time, if not maybe up to an hour late, or we can push it before 5 o'clock East Coast time. Those are probably the best options, and those are pretty much going to be the same options throughout the week because I'm pretty much locked down from effectively 5 to 10 is when the content is probably going to run.
I feel like later will probably be best.
Yeah, we got special guest Mikey.
Yeah. Okay, I will get in touch with you guys later off air about it.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Have a
All
good,
right. Love
good
you guys.
thing.
Bye.
Bye.
See,
Now it's just us here in the.
I'm looking through our list. I think one of these we'll probably try to maybe do next week. And one of the after things I think is actually more of a weird things thing.
Okay.
Speaking from a skeptical perspective from James Harrison.
Oh, right.
But yeah, we've got a couple good ones. This is good. It's
Okay.
good. It's good.
Great. Also, that JF one, note that there is one of those lines that we will delete and not say on the air. It's clearly marked secret, so just heads up. You don't need to worry about it. It will.
Okay.
If you're reading it here, you won't see it. And if Andrew's got it, he doesn't need to hide it.
Yeah.
And that's if we're doing that one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. We just deleted it.
No.
do I have time to?
Easier, so the brain
Let
knows
the
what to
restroom
do.
Yes, go.
Yeah, I think if he gets the right treatment for the rash, he'll be fine. Though I think he'll be fine. Lives in Canada, man. You know, who knows what goes up there?
I just got back from seeing Ghostbusters right before
Like-
we started the show.
What'd you think?
Oh, I thought it was super good. I thought it was really funny.
Oh, cool.
I don't think I've ever seen Ghostbusters all the way through, so I didn't have like much of the nostalgia thing, which is kind of the same way I went into Star Wars in December. But I really enjoyed this, and partially because it's not in the middle of a story like Star Wars is, but I thought it was super funny. I thought Kate McKinnon, she was great, but I kept thinking she was Gillian Jacobs, the blonde girl from Community.
Okay.
And just like really committing to this character, but it was definitely just somebody else. I think it's really good. And Chris Evans, right? I think that's him.
Thor, yeah.
His character was surprisingly less one note than I thought he would be. He ended up being a better character than.
He's done several kind of small roles in comedy bits, and I think he should get credit for the fact that he's trying to do that. He was like in Vacation and other bits. He's one of these guys. He's kind of taking sort of a note out of the Channing Tatum notebook of like, don't be afraid to just be the butt of a joke or whatever. If you're the ruggedly handsome dude, you can be laughed at. It's fine. Better that than to take yourself too seriously and be limited. So
Yeah, and it wasn't.
yeah, Chris Hemsworth. Thank you guys.
Hemsworth, yeah.
It was Evans is Captain America.
Right. There's too many Chris's.
Yeah.
And there weren't. It wasn't too bogged down with like trying to make a lot of references to the old stuff.
Or plot. Character development. Are we ready, guys?
Ready.
I think so. Oops. There we go. All right, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the After Things show. This is where Brian and Brushwood is right here, right, Brian?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Me, Andrew Main, who I'm right here. Just us two. As two problem solvers. Because it's all great teams. You know what they have in common, Brian?
They have problems that have to be solved.
They're two dudes.
Oh,
It's
only
Batman
two dudes.
and Robin, not Batman, Robin, and Nightwing.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
Yeah.
There's never been a good trio in history.
No, you like the Three Stooges, but
Well,
yeah,
but even
it's
then, they
not-
couldn't stick to three. All of a sudden, it's it's Shemp and Curly Joe.
duo, a team, a problem-solving team, Mario and Luigi, But there is weird that it's been pointed out that, like, why are they the Mario brothers?
Well, they explained that in the movie back in 1992. He says his name was Mario and his brother was Luigi Mario.
Right. It makes sense, I guess, like David Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
So, Brian,
We got problems to solve.
my video is completely gone, but that's okay. I can still hear.
Oh, no. There's fires being fixed in the background.
Okay,
Don't worry
I
about
wasn't
it.
sure
Don't
if I
worry
did
about
something
it.
wrong, which is entirely possible.
That's because we're professionals.
Yes. Wirecast crashed, and now I can't turn your video on unless we call you back.
Okay, let's just restart.
Okay.
All right.
Not that we need to lose that comedic gold.
On BRB. Yeah, thank you for your patience, everyone. I wire crashed just wire crashed on me. But we will get Andrew back in lickety split. Do-do-do-do-do. Hey, Andrew Main calling him back with our video. Hopefully there. Oh, is he there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Try again.
Hello?
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 Hello.
Hello?
Echo?
Echo.
Echo?
Echo.
Hello?
Wherefore my video go?
Do you still not have it? Oh,
No, and I hear my voice.
crap. Okay, can you call us on this line?
Surely.
Thank you. It's great. Skype.
What happened?
Skype's
Oh, you
doing
have
that
to
thing
restart
where
Skype. Yeah.
where now they have to call us, which is the weirdest glitch. But thank you for your patience. There he is. Hey.
Yo.
All right.
Any better?
We will see. Hey!
Huzzah!
All right, you guys want to start that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Heck yes.
As we all know, all great teams are just two people, Batman and Robin.
Specifically, they're all great teams are two people that used to be three people, but then one of them has like a big important gig and can't be there. That's what makes for a great team.
Yeah, you're saying that like somebody moved on and it's more important.
I mean,
Somebody thinks that there's a more important show to do than this show. Gotcha.
yeah. Name one national convention happening right now.
Yeah. I don't know. What I do know is that we've got some email from people, and just to let you know, on After Things, what we do is we try to lend our
Experience.
Yeah,
And
our point of view on things.
There you
which,
go.
To be honest with you, is as I sit here in the squalor of my Burbank apartment, take everything with just a grain of salt. Like we'll tell you our thoughts on things, but not like we're captain. Brian's done pretty well for himself. So,
if you want to know,
Brian's got multiple enterprises
I'm pretty much the
going
best
on. I'm a lazy man
at making beautiful little girls. So if you need to know how to make little girls and how to handle taking them to the emergency room when they split their lips and foreheads, I've got that down.
Got it down. I mean, I write books and I make TV and stuff like that, but I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I still consider myself a failure. So here is somebody who's not a failure, Brian.
Oh, good.
This is from Joe.
Right on.
Joe Diamond. Joe Diamond writes in. He says, "Hello, gentlemen. I'm a Chicagoland mentalist. I usually hear Chicagoland with the words like slayings.
Yes, we have murders.
Yes.
Or gangs.
But the Chicagoland mentalist, like, oh, dude, like, he will know that you sold out solely and he will have you killed. Like, don't even cross paths with the Chicagoland mentalist.
Sure.
So Joe, the Chicagoland mentalist, is doing shows in a reportedly haunted mansion. He puts reportedly in quotes. Says it's become a great little summer project as I go through my summer slump, and before things pick up again in the fall or Halloween and corporate work in December, shows have been selling out. And I'm working hard on getting the last few shows off the month to sell out as well. I'm looking for new ways to promote. I've done all the usual stuff, and it has been working. Email lists, newspaper, web listings, Facebook ads. I'm looking for new ways to bring in audiences. So far, it's been mostly seniors and even families. I've got a few people in their early 20s coming this week and like to get more college students before the summer is over. I feel like I'm doing the right things, but I'm missing out on the new right things. Let me know if you've got any other ideas. Love the show. Thanks so much, Joe Diamond."
Oh, man, I wish I had a little more clarity on what's being done. So we're probably going to give a bunch of ideas that we're just going to imagine that half the things we say, you're nodding, saying, yep, I've been doing that. Well, I guess one of the things we don't have is a sense of how full is sold out, because the strategy to bring in 20 people is a different strategy than to bring in 200 people. But all that.
I'll throw out some thoughts on that while you formulate your strategy.
Well, okay. There's a couple of different things you could do. the hardest thing for most people is to come up for a reason for why you are reaching out to someone. People, it feels weird. Like you could basically announce, hey, everyone, I got my show. It's here. And then what? Do you just keep shouting that same thing? No, that's weird and makes you not want to do it. So if you can build into it, one thing that we have been doing that's worked out very, very well on our weekly giveaway videos when we announce new stuff on the Scam School channel is we keep putting new puzzles, new twists on there. You know, the format of each episode is exactly the same, except for now that we have hidden codes and puzzles, there's always something new that attracts people to come back, even if they look at the title and they say, well, I don't need a fire blasting screwdriver, but I do like solving that puzzle, so I'll go there. Likewise, if your show is the same and stays the same, you could figure out some way to add a always evolving element to it that makes it newsworthy or noteworthy, worth reaching out. You know, hopefully you have an email address because you're doing giveaways and you're building up your groups. Hopefully you're figuring out maybe a one-time event where it's refer someone to come in and they get a free pass for themselves or someone, like bring a friend, you come free or whatever. You know, don't forget that you could do unlimited one-off special events. And if you do it and it works really well, that doesn't mean you can't do it again. It just means you can't call it the same thing or say it's the same thing. Or maybe the story is, hey, we're doing this one-time event. Oh, the whole world loved it. Guess what? We're bringing back the one-time event again. It was so good. The other thing, complete opposite side, is your show is inherently newsworthy. Even though it may not feel like it, you can figure out just about any current event that you can hang your hat on it. So instead of having a press release that goes out to everyone that always says the same thing, magic show still in town, doing a thing. You could celebrate, you know, the anniversaries. You can announce new things, or you know, you could say psychic predicted Trump victory with this whatever, and you can make a viral video proves psychic predicted whatever. You can give anybody working in news is looking for some kind of angle to not just say the same thing everyone else is saying. And if you can provide that and use that as a peg to hook a plug for your show or for what you do, you're going to reach a whole bunch of people. And there's great books on that. The Rise of PR, The Death of Advertising. There's another one. Oh shoot, I can't remember. It was from a news guy out of Dallas. Wrote a really good one as well. Anyway, lots of different ways to do that. And my timing was perfect because Andrew Main was taking a drink.
Oh yeah, I went up to use the bathroom. All right, okay. My thoughts on this. So I clicked this link through there, and Joe, I think your website, by the way, your personal website, I think is a really well laid out website. I would say the problem is like right now, the banner at the very top, like I had to look twice to find the link in it. That's above the fold, even there. You can't even see it on our Skype view unless we scroll it lighter. So it seats 13 people. You've got this great story hook. The fact that it is in this reportedly haunted mansion. The two areas that I would really want to focus on when it comes to local coverage is TV and radio. For TV is get hold of the TV stations and make a pitch to them. Say, hey, we're doing this exclusive 13-person only mentalism show in this haunted mansion. Would you guys like to come down and shoot or do whatever? If it's because it might be a very interesting story for people who do cultural stuff. Is like, oh, there's like a an exclusive magic show that takes place in this mansion. Okay, use the words exclusive. Okay, and use the word mentalism instead of mental. That in haunted mansion. Pitch to the local TV networks is what you want to get is. If you have the people who do the kind of the regular sort of, fun coverage, you want to get them to come down. They pick stories that have visual elements and say, hey, and we might see a few ghosts while we're there. I'll give you a tour. Could I give your host a tour? And then they could watch one of the magic shows. Pitch that to multiple stations and see if they respond, because that is, if you hit them on the right day, they'll be like, oh, that's great. Let's send somebody down there because it's got a really good TV news hook for local television. So pitch that Two, local radio is the idea with local radio shows is to put together your on-air radio minimalism stuff and say, hey, can I call in from the Haunted Mansion here and do a mentalism bit? For some reason it works better here. And I don't really believe in that stuff, but it works better there. That's a cool radio bit. Like, oh, he's calling us right now from the Haunted Mansion, the most haunted room there, and he's going to do, he's going to try to read so-and-so's mind.
And keep in mind, like, the value of that is not just the segment. The segment is going to be 5 minutes long in between traffic and weather together on the fives. What they get out of it is they get to amp up the perceived value of their show as they plug it, for hours and hours and hours leading up to that moment.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, Joe, you did a brilliant choice in choosing this venue. That's that I've learned from you in what you've done here, and that a really interesting venue amplifies what you're doing. So I think that play that up, use that advantage of, those are things I would do to get publicity, to get people in the door. Here's the thing that you can do too, is that this is some advice. Now with 13, it's limited. If I was going to go do a show, like a live magic show in LA, and I really wanted important people to go see it, I would work out a deal with the museum, the observatory, and all the places that have a membership level, that have a really expensive level of membership, and say, hey, can I do a fundraiser for you? Will you guys promote this thing or whatever? And I will do it free of cost. All the door goes to you guys or whatever, because that then promotes me out to people on that list, and they hear about the show and what I'm doing. So if I were trying to reach other audiences, if I were in Chicago, are there escape rooms there? Can you use their emails? Escape rooms, they're become super popular. Those sort of attractions, they have an email list of people who love to go out and do adventurous things. Talk to them, say, hey, I'll pay you 30% of a ticket or whatever, 20% or 10% if you send out an email promoting my magic show. So reach out to escape rooms, see if they'll let you use their email list. Reach out to other places that have a higher ticket, sort of higher membership levels, and those are, really good resources.
You could even work out a deal with escape rooms, because what happens is you get a group of people, let's say 7 people, they just finished the thing. They're like, that's really fun. What's the next thing people say? We should do something like this again. And if you work out a deal with an escape room where it's like, hey, did you enjoy it? Would you like to do something like this? Only it's a bit of a supernatural thing. There's this event. It takes place, whatever. Don't hand them a coupon or a flyer or whatever. Say, if you will sell, can I make you a ticket seller? And you could just make 30% on all the tickets. It's a way for you to get an easy extra $150 out of excited groups right as they're walking out the door. You get to cash in right there on the spot.
And absolutely. There's a reason why, like in New York, like a lot of the smaller theaters band together and they'd put out things like Playbill, and they put out these things to sort of share an audience, because they only have enough content for that audience 1 or 2 times a year. Right. And the same with an escape room or whatever. But if you go to them and say, hey, I have a non-competing form of, content that you guys can make money from, et cetera, it's an underutilized. When I talk to magicians and I ask them, like, where are you, where's your email list? Like, I'm always surprised, like, why aren't you talking to other people that are in the same, like other magicians? Like, no, other people, other kind of one-time attractions that are trying to fill rooms, because you could do exactly what Brian says. You could say, at the end of my show, I'll pitch you guys pitch me, whatever, and then you let us share our email lists, and, things will work out really well.
Yeah, and Playbill, I think, was a really good example, because it made me think there was a brief period when I was doing colleges that, everybody is doing direct mailers at the time. This is 15 years ago. Email marketing wasn't as effective or as pervasive as it is right now. So we had talked about, like, okay, all of us are going to do one nationwide mailing per year. What if 8 of us got together, and instead of for the same cost as each of us doing one nationwide mailer, we would put all of our stuff and make our own 8-page magazine. Maybe one page would be different and unique, and we'd all take turns being on the cover of the magazine. I'm using air quotes. And then on inside, we could have an editorial page filled with advice on, booking lots of people to your events. And pretty much all the rest of it is just a shuffling of our ads over and over and over again. I still think that would have been a great idea, but unfortunately it never came to pass. Be thinking in those terms. And I think you hit the nail right on the head, Andrew, when you were saying that there's only so much content and you feel like it's one and done. Think of every other event that feels the same way you do, and figure out how you guys can just trade the same folks around.
Yeah, I would offer you one piece of advice, Mr. Diamond, if that you have the opportunity. The photos of your show they they're not what I when I expect that I'm going to go see like a spooky magic show in a mansion. You know, that's not what I expect to see. I feel like I'm looking at like a rec center kind of thing.
And these are all they're all candid shots that
they're real like shows. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would. If there's a way to stage it or do, I know it's late to ask, but like if you could even black and white or some way to
or
make
just turn off the lights and set a candle and then and get ask some friends over like, hey, can I do my routines for you, and we'll just have this candle here and hopefully we'll get some good
whatever you do it there, like, and
pictures.
Joe, we'll talk too about like I think you need to dress more theatrical for that environment.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Brian, your thoughts?
No. I agree. I don't want to. I just want to work under the assumption that the show itself is perfect as is, and just focus on the
I guess my
side.
point of view is like if you want to get a TV news crew, if you want to get people in there and you want to get them to go, this is great, we want to cover this, you need to give them a product.
And
you know,
the moment they look at your website, they have to be able to picture what this segment will look like when they put it together.
Yeah, a guy and again, I'm all for certain environments of dressing like that, but a guy in a polo shirt and blue jeans who's doing a show, I mean, because it's a spooky minimalism show, all this sounds great, and I look at this like, oh, just a regular guy doing a card trick. It's like, I'm like, Joe, like you've got a great site, you've got a great sense on a lot of these things. Like I would, don't be afraid to amp it up. When you go to the Disney Haunted Mansion, everybody from the moment you walk into the gate, they're no longer happy Disney people. They're in character, and it's very, and I'm not saying go bizarre, but a suit or something that just elevates this whole thing. It's just a thought.
Well, especially if what you want to do is reach for the high end. There's two ways to make more money. One is to sell out all your shows, which you're certainly working on right now, but that's an achievable goal that might happen in just a few months. All of your time might be booked. And in that case, the only place for you to go is to adjust the price. And that means you need to make it more of a high-end experience, which means, go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at his homepage and you look at the photo there,
the first photo is great. The one
I want to see that guy. I want to see that guy in those photos. I want to see that guy. He's wearing a suit, he's wearing a tie, he's got a key on his lapel. That's the guy I want to see, doing the show there. That's just my thought on it, so.
Yeah, that opening photo looks fantastic.
Yeah, and Joe, you've done a great job. This is all coming from if I were to say what I would do, and we're not telling you what you need to do because you know better than that. So.
Does he have a podcast? Unreal Radio? Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great idea, by the way. It's a domain, a secondary domain that establishes you as a expert, even if your clients or the people coming to the show never watch this thing. Just knowing that it's out there matters and helps.
Yeah. Again, Joe, I think you have a really well done website here. I think you've got it really well presented. So. So often, we click through on stuff and it's like just no thought. It was just everything was done as an afterthought, but it's the first impression.
Yeah.
The first impression people get is your website, is that interaction. And we treat it like it's such a secondary, ancillary sort of thing because our first impression is ourselves. But it's the opposite. It's not the tail end. It's the first, their doorway. And if you look at this doorway and it looks run down and it's looking like a crappy neighborhood, and you're like, I'm not going to knock.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I would even wonder, like that banner, the logo is really awesome, the JD of Joe Diamond, but the unfortunate placement is that I only see the top half of his head. I almost wonder if I wouldn't rather see that logo superimposed on the photo. So the first thing I see is him.
What's a video?
Well, exactly, or whatever it is. My point is, it's framed such that I see a name and half a face. At any is the most I can see. I never get to see.
Oh, it's full screen on my web.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a 720p display here. So.
I see the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to another magician here. I'm picking up a theme.
By the way,
Robbie
I'm okay
writes,
with this theme. If after things just becomes us giving the best advice we can to every magician and variety entertainer out there, that'd be great.
If you say so, Brian. Robbie writes, hey guys, just thought I'd share with you what I've been going through the last couple of months. My name is Robbie Johnson. I'm a magician working in the middle of Wisconsin. I've been doing magic more as a hobby and using it as an icebreaker when at the hotel bar that I work at. But in early June, the general manager of the hotel asked me to do a couple of tricks for a work meeting. And of course I did. And after, she asked me if I had ever done walk around magic and shows. I'd done a couple of stage tricks for variety shows and, of course, close-up magic for friends and people at the bar, but never gotten paid for a gig. My manager goes on to tell me that she's part of the Chamber of Commerce in a nearby city and said they were looking for a magician to work the 4th of July festival. I explained that I'd never actually done it before, but I felt more comfortable performing, and eventually I got booked and was extremely excited, the Chamber and I. Decided that I would do walk-around magic for guests at the festival during the day and in the night with a 15 to 20-minute magic fire eating show right before the fireworks start. The point of this email is to tell you how much help this podcast was to help me understand how to talk with the Chamber and how to prepare for what was ahead of me. And again, especially thank Brian for the help he personally gave me with how to write my fire eating routine, among other things. Since the 4th of July Chamber asked me to work future events, and I'm also talking with a couple of campgrounds around the area that have asked me if I could perform with them on weekends. Again, thank you. You guys have helped me a tremendous amount, and I know I'm not the only one, so thank you. Oh, cool. Well, that's no question. He's just wanted to.
Well, congratulations. But you know what we can talk about is how do you do that first kind of opportunity? How do you gauge how much to charge or what to expect or you know, because oftentimes you don't know, like, I don't know how much do you want to give me or whatever.
Yeah, you know, there's a couple ways to go into that. And it depends. One is like, are you part of a magic community and you have people you can ask? Because the danger is you're better off asking other magicians what to charge, because what they don't want is somebody undercharging.
Yep.
You know, they don't want, you know, if the standard sort of thing for a half hour or for an hour of walk around is $350, if you're going out there selling it for $150, then you could be getting more. You're doing a disservice, one, to yourself for your price, and two, is that if somebody's calling around getting quotes and they hear this one guy says 150, the 350, it doesn't mean the guy automatically who's at 150 gets the job. It means they're going like, I don't know if I really want magic. Can't even figure out what you're supposed to pay.
Right. Well, and plus that, it's like, let's say in that example, the first thing someone's going to think is like, well, what's wrong with his act that he's charging less than half of everyone else? But then, so not only does it hurt your chance of getting the gig, but word gets around because there's only 2 magicians in any city, and then they're gonna be like, man, you hear this other guy's trying to undercut us, charging only $150 or whatever.
Yeah. And there are exceptions to that too, in that there are, if you're performing for different socioeconomic classes too, and that's a thing that in Miami, is that if you are doing, the show price depends upon the zip code. If you're doing something in Palm Beach, in the beach part of Palm, the nice, super nice area that, the, Jupiter Island or Miami, and like the really nice areas there, versus if you're doing something more in the suburbs, pricing's going to be different. And that a lot of magicians weren't conscious of that too. And they, and it's that, and it's not just because, oh, you're going to charge the wealthy people more. No, it's because they're going to expect, I got to show up to that gig. I got to wear my, my $2,000 suit,
well, and that's the thing, man, is the show is the same for a high-end corporate event with 2,000 people in the audience as for an informal birthday, party with 200 people in the room. Let's say it's the exact same 40 minutes that I'm going to do. There is a fundamentally different expectation about being there, showing up early, going through sound checks, having everything. You have to show up a full day early for the corporate version of this thing, even though it's the same show. You have to go through and show your entire act to make sure everyone in tech understands it, because they cannot afford to have anything fail and so on. So it's not. Don't confuse. Your product is not just what you do. Your product is also how you make people feel, and what hoops you jump through, and that'll be different for every event.
Yeah, there's if you're going to a catered party and you're performing there, it's like, yeah, they don't want, they may invite you to hang out and linger around, but you're better to get out of there. But if you're at, more of a company picnic kind of family picnic kind of thing, you get hired to go do it, and it's a more informal kind of thing. And hey, he's going to hang out afterwards and eat with the buffet with us. There's different levels and things like that, but it's sidetracked here. Point is that, find out pricing's important. The open way is just to call up some magicians, say, hey, I'm a local guy, I'm doing shows, I don't want to screw this things up. And everybody's going to perceive you as competition. That's for sure. But if you're so the open way, if you don't know enough magicians, find a way, go to meetings, go to Magic Club meetings. But a lot of times those guys aren't actually doing shows. Find out where to start with pricing. The subtle way is to have a friend call and get quotes on stuff. You know, I mean, that's maybe shady, but if you know that you're not going to get an honest answer, then use a subterfuge to find out what pricing is going for.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, yeah, it doesn't hurt to call them directly and say, hey, I'm another magician here. I am, just be honest. Like, I don't know. Would you?
Well, that
do
was
you
my
mind
first
sharing?
approach, but I'm saying is that you get
Yeah.
there. I've heard stories of
Oh.
for the other hand, like, yeah, some guy called me, some local guy wanted, I lied to him, you know, I'm like, told him this or whatever. And it's like, it can be weird. It depends. It's such a weird, it's hard to know. And I always say defer to the honest approach, but I've been aware of many situations where magicians are so territorial and threatened by somebody else asking them, they've given them intentionally bad advice and done things to them.
Man, I really wish you weren't so right. but
know,
but I definitely know that could be the case.
But that's why if you can meet people, if you can go to magic clubs and meet people in person, it's harder for them to lie to you and be dishonest to you. If you're just a guy on the phone, then they will do that. But and that's the unfortunate part, is that it's not this great brotherhood where we're looking out for everybody. And now those markets, those small markets, those people are super. They know that, you know, they want. The person's going to pull up the Google search or the phone book or whatever. They know there are 3 other people they're going to call, and they're competing against each other to make sure that it's them that gets the call. And the last, they don't want another person in the market.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be the case. And I feel like anything more I say about it will just get me gossiping. And so we'll talk about something else.
All right. So that's our suggestion on that. Moving right along. Good friend of the show. This is Mr. J.F. Dubeau, who is
wonderful.
Quite a successful. We're watching the ascendancy of his writing career. The last book that he put out, The Life Engineered, it's done really well. Fantastic reviews, and he's got another book coming out. So let's get this. Let me dive right into this very lengthy email. The short version. I'm launching a crowdfunding campaign within a month. I will have some experience with these kinds of campaigns. While I have some experience funding a book on Inkshares, I remain terrified of the prospect and would like to make sure I don't miss a beat and make this as smooth an experience as any crowdfunding campaign can be. The campaign is for a book, the sequel to my first book, The Life Engineered, which was published on Inkshares on the Sword and Laser collection. I know Justin's done a great job with the contender. Brian has demonstrated unparalleled talent in getting attention for his various projects. And Andrew, well, we like him. This is Andrew's got a grasp of publishing, blah, blah, blah. I figure that if the boys can Voltron the blank out of some kick-ass advice, I might have a chance of making it out in one piece. The long version, in order to make this more legible and less of a pain in the ass to go through, here's a list of things I'm planning on or having done in bullet form. So I'm planning to do a crowdfunding campaign for a book. 1, the book is a sci-fi novel about robots, which is a sequel to my first book. It's twice the size and a more complex and compelling story, I hope. 2, the first draft is written already and samples can and will be picked out from it to showcase during the campaign. 3, I plan on doing the campaign in 3 stages. Currently, the book is an idea on Inkshares and has over 120 followers. In a couple of weeks, I'll be upgrading to a draft, which will include cover art, synopsis, blah, 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 teaser, campaign, etc. The 3rd stage is upgrading to a full campaign. I have 4 vectors of communication with existing readers. He says, I've got an author newsletter with about 100 subscribers, followers of the draft, 120, followers of the first book, 703, followers of my second book currently, 812. Inkshares requires 750 pre-orders to publish and usually sells books in 3 ways. Ebooks 10, signed and numbered 20, 3 times signed and numbered, paperback acknowledgement 60. I plan a 90-day campaign of hitting up any and all blog and media who have talked about my books to help. I'm considering adding a 4th level to pre-orders. So he wants advice on launching this.
Okay. I mean, the things I liked the fact that he's going with Inkshares again. I say again, but his first book was on Inkshares, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the things I'm concerned about is that it seems like banging the gong to announce you have a first draft written. There's a serious backlash against incomplete projects on crowdfunding of all variety.
Well, I mean, to be clear though, I think on Inkshares, that's part of is to say that like it's not a book that I want to write, but no, I do have this book written. So it's not if people agree to buy the book, I'll go write the book. So I think that is a step that's required for Inkshares.
Right. No. Right. That's what I'm saying. But I guess my question is there a reason that the crowdfunding campaign is happening at the first draft level, not 6 months from now at the final level? Or
I think to limit the amount of time, because once the book is finished, he doesn't want to have to wait another 90 days to then release it.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? This is just a different animal than what I'm familiar with. What's your gut on this?
Yeah, I'm, for me, the idea of crowdfunding a book, unless it involves like you need money to research and do things to do that, is sort of a weird idea to me, because it's like you write a book, you sell the book. You can certainly start the hype and promotion for the book. And so it's a different thing for me. I would say, to give a more generalized advice, is you clearly need to, any type of crowdfunding campaign, you can predict, probably a good predictor for your success is how many people do you have direct access to right now? How many people can you reach? How many people can you reach out and touch? Why did Brian's Indiegogo campaign to launch Scam Stuff succeed? Of course, Brian's a smart guy. Of course, Brian's got good taste. Of course, Brian's a good magician. Brian has, between email, YouTube, Twitter, podcasts, I mean, think of all those things I just named, huge footprint, huge footprint. So he could get that word out. He's already got contact with people who like his stuff, a large field, large that. And a lot of times people want to launch, I'm going to put this on Kickstarter. It's like, and you see the first few hours, they've only got like one person. It's like, your friends didn't even support this. Your friends didn't even jump into this. Why is this? It's not because they're bad friends. I would say on net, our friends are all average in how loyal they are. It's because there's a communication problem there. I would say, make sure that your reach can be, how do you increase your reach? How do you build that up? Different ways to do that. Our buddy Scott Sigler, Scott's between his podcasts and pushing content out there. Scott's a super aggressive guy when it comes to that, and a super good guy. So it works out really well. So I would say that, when you launch it, you certainly, you have 90 days, which is good. Kickstarter is terrifying because you have 30 days. In the first few days, if there's no momentum on it, you can it's going to nosedive. You want to make sure that you can get buzz and excitement. Like if I were to do a Kickstarter project, I would do a launch 30 days before the Kickstarter of just like, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. Tell your friends, whatever, help me. If you can help support when I push this thing. So then when I do tell people, hey, it's here, it's not like in the middle of the night out of nowhere, like, hey, I'm doing a Kickstarter. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, that's understand the entire crowdfunding process is largely a performance that you are doing. You, behind the scenes, should have a pretty good idea of how many people will sign up immediately for it, and how many will tell their friends, and so on. If at all, you of everyone should be the least surprised at every phase of the crowdfunding thing. Now, that doesn't mean you don't act surprised. That doesn't mean you don't freak out and be like, holy crap, 10% of the way there in just 24 hours. That's big news. Look at us, momentum. Let's go. That's great. And that's fine. Figure out a schedule and targets and milestones that you have to hit and when you have to hit them. But more importantly, figure out what it is that you're offering. Like I guess nobody's going to be more likely to read your second book than those who read your first book. So I would say figure out a way to start a dialogue in advance with everybody who has bought your book. If you are having a conversation, if you have become genuine friends with this, you said the email list is 100 people long, start interacting directly. And I don't mean just posting press releases. I'm saying, say, hey guys, do you have 5 seconds? I just put a poll here about whether I should do this second book or not. Can you click on it? Or hey, write me back. Which of these 2 titles do you think is better or whatever? And genuinely have a conversation. Crowdfunding campaigns work when you've already built up value with someone. This is it. This is this is what I'm trying to say. Crowdfunding campaigns works because they are harvests, not seed plantings. You need to have been planting the seeds all the way. You don't show up at harvest and say, yeah, well, from what I understand, you can get 10% of your goal by just starting on harvest day. What are you planting right now so that you have multiple phases? You need to build your arsenal of messages to have and stories to tell so that you do your opening salvo and you let them know in advance. Hey, man, harvest day is in 30 days, 15 days, 10 days, 5 days. We'd love a big bunch. Give me your ideas of how we can promote this or whatever. 3, 2, 1. It's harvest day. Then the next phase starts. 24 hours in, we're 10% funded. This is the best day ever. Now it's time for phase 2. I'm doing a secret giveaway of original signed copies of book 1 to anyone who can, get this in the hands of a blogger or whatever, whatever it is. Make your team understand that is your street team who's going to work for you. Give them all very clear goals about what they can do to help, and they don't need to be monetary goals, because people who love your stuff, your number one biggest best fan, can only buy the book once. After that, it gets weird. He's buying copies from other people. But that super fan might be able to identify bloggers and reviewers and other people to get you on their radar, especially if you can figure out with an unconventional aspect to the campaign that is newsworthy or noteworthy.
Absolutely. Build that email list, get it bigger. And here's some suggestions on how to do that. Write some short stories and give away short stories to everybody who signs up for my newsletter email. I'm going to be giving away a short story that takes place in this universe, a standalone, whatever. HarperCollins had me do that between Angel Killer and The Name of the Devil. They had me like, hey, can you write a short story? So I wrote a short story, and that became its own thing that was connected, between the two stories. And it was done as a, hey, sign up for, or pre-order the book, whatever, get the short story. You can use that, use your writing as the hook. Offer this out there like, hey, everybody who signs up for my newsletter, get this free short story, whatever. Do that because you want to build up that list. And as Brian says, interact. I write one-line responses, but somebody sends me an email, thanks so much, whatever, whenever they like something, and I write a one sentence thing, thank you, I appreciate it. I let people know, they hear me. Same thing with Twitter. I try to stay on top of Twitter every day, and everybody who's replied me, say something back or like it or whatever, and just let people know that it's an engaged thing. And, Brian and I both, we follow a lot of people, and we always get these kind of like, oh, looks like so-and-so follows a lot of people. Oh, you're going to get a response from me.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing the presumption, of course, is like, oh, they follow a bunch of people, but they don't listen. It's like, no, I listen to every word and I respond to every single one of you, and once you have that, it gives you value so that now you have that interaction and you can ask for that favor. That's an important thing.
Yeah. It's funny because it's statistically not that much easier to follow 800 people than it is to follow 8,000. You just, the conversation is still a blur,
Yeah.
And so that's like when I get that criticism, like, I don't think you're, if you're following a significant number of people, you're not really paying attention.
So, well,
to the whole feed anyway.
Back to JF's situation, I would say just remember that campaign is the ending. The real campaign starts today, but the question is, when the battle happens, how many salvos do you have? How many different operations do you have in your arsenal? Because the one thing you cannot do is say like, well, I launched the video and then just wait. You have to have your wave 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things to do.
Yeah, so put together a list, plan a blog or plan a podcast tour, put a list of all the literary podcasts that you have, think of different angles to go in there and talk about it. A lot of those literary podcasts, they're not so much readers as much as people who are writers. That's the sort of thing you have to know about, is say, hey, I'm an author who's done a successful, Inkshares campaign before. I'm about to launch another one. Love to talk about my book and what it's like to work with Inkshares. Use that as a hook. What's it like to do crowdfunding book stuff. And you're helping other writers out, which will incur this sort of reciprocity. So I would put that out there. Like that would be my hook. Like, hey, I'm, one sentence. I've written a book. I'm doing my second Inkshares campaign. My last one was a success. I'd love to come talk about my book and talk about working with crowdfunded writing, and push that out to all the literary podcasts you can, and blogs, and just you need to. What is a publicist? Is a Rolodex. A publicist is a list of contacts, and not everybody. And that's the thing, is we get in this mindset of like, oh, well, I asked a couple of people and they turned me down. I'm like, yeah, you didn't ask enough. you've got to go to, if your response rate is 5%, which means, 1 out of 20, I'm gonna do some math for you guys, or 1 out of 20 are gonna say yes, and you want to get onto 10 different outlets, then that means you got to contact 200.
Yeah, and by the way, here's the best part. After you contact that 200 and you get those 10 appearances or whatever, you now have 190 contacts ripe to be asked again. Because understand, I got told no multiple times by the Tonight Show.
No, Brian, no!
I got told no until I asked at the right time. And then they were like, oh yeah, no, that'd be great. And then once you did it the one time, it's a lot easier to get in the second time.
The problem we have, and I'm so guilty of this, is that there are things we want, and we want the universe to give them to them as soon as we ask for them. We don't want to do any groundwork, and then if we don't get it, we just give up on it. Where the key is to persistence, is a process, is to say, okay, when I want to get my story out there, I'm going to go to these 20 different outlets and pitch it to them, because I know it's not going to be, I get asked periodically to do podcasts, and often if I'm in the middle of writing, I can't, and I need to figure out a better way to maintain those relationships. So when I do want to do podcasts, that it works out well for both of us. And so, I would say just put together an actual list of every outlet you want to reach, and then plan, push.
I think you touched on something I think is really important. It is a very, very tempting fantasy for us to believe that when big success comes, it comes to people who are inherently talented, and it happens because they're talented. It's just not true. At some level, even if it's not that person who's hustling really hard to get his own awards, somebody who's being paid by that person, or somebody who's owning a piece of that pie is hustling really hard to make that happen. And the best example I can think of is, you think of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You think of those are all people who made it. People buy those stars. Those are awards. Not one person on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was given it. Every single one had to campaign for the opportunity to buy their own award. Was it like $10,000 or $20,000?
I'm sure they may have given away a couple, but yeah, exactly. The Walk of Fame is you pay for, but again, you have to qualify for one. No, you can't just be anybody and be like, I want a star. They get approached all the time by people like, no, you're not, you don't qualify because you're not noteworthy enough in this category. But once you are, they're like, yes, we will let you pay us.
Well, or at least convinced people that you're noteworthy in that category. Oftentimes you have managers who labor for years, literal years, campaigning over and over and over again, saying like, hey man, you think we can do that star thing yet? We got that check. We're willing to write, blah, blah, blah. And when they get there, it is a triumph. But when they look at that star, they don't think, oh, we've made it. Everyone loves us so much they gave us a star. They think that is the work of 3 years of hard hustle and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep. That's, Oscar time. So living in LA, when, Emmy Awards and Oscars come up, everywhere you look are for your consideration. And it's not like that in the rest of the country.
No.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's what they do, they throw. I went to an event for it was at the Fox lot, and it was for The Martian, and they had Ridley Scott there, Andy Weir was there, and all. It was a really cool event. They were up there talking about it. I'm like, this was really nice of Fox. Oh, Oscar time.
Yeah, they're not doing anything nice.
It's Oscar time. This is why they did it, and it was a smart event. They had NASA people, whatever. It was a great event. It was because they wanted to make sure The Martian got an Oscar, and so they were doing events to get people to, show up and participate and talk about what important movie was.
Here's the weird part. At the end of the day, none of that active campaigning, none of that money spent made that Oscar any less incredibly valuable. Like, they won the prize. They got the presidency. They were elected to Congress. That's what it means to run a campaign, and you are running a campaign I don't want you to look at, this 100 sales of the book and say like, oh, but those 100 sales only happened because I hustled really hard and did this one podcast and asked these people as a favor and then traded out, a plug for this other guy's stuff. It's like, at the end of the day, you want to sell those, you got a campaign. You're in politics now.
Yep. It's just push, and always on it. It gets frustrating. It gets time consuming. And, I've been part of projects where, when I see the success of it is because the people at the inception have a really good plan, and then I can kind of predict early on if this is going to succeed or fail because you're like, no, nobody's there. Everybody's waiting for somebody else to do this thing.
Yeah, everybody's agreed that it's a good thing, and but nobody's willing to do to get in the grit. And I don't want to hear about how you only know 3 podcasts. Call up everyone whose podcast you've been on and say, who do you know that knows?
Go to iTunes and look up literary.
Yeah, and just go
down the list.
Straight on down.
Well, Brian, you have any picks?
I guess oh, you know what? This is a sideways pick. This is not going to make your life better. I just want to mention it because it was a lot of fun. Raw Data is finally out on the Vive VR, and it's still a pre-alpha thing. It's still, you're paying some bucks for an incomplete game, but but you get to be along the process of it getting better and better over time. And for the first time, I played Raw Data. The game's real simple. You stand behind a console, and robots just keep walking at you, and you keep shooting them or punching them. I'm going
to interrupt you here, Brian.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, folks. The problem with watching video game previews for virtual reality, it ain't nothing like playing the game.
Well, that's what I was about to say, is that it feels almost like a nightmare. Like those moments in nightmares where you turn and whoopsie, they're upon you and you're dead. That happens. And last night I had a magical experience. For the first time ever, I played Raw Data with another person live, back to back. Me and Jeff Kanata played through just the first basic rounds, and it's astonishing because you reach down, you pull out the gun in your right hand. You have to keep the sides squeezed while you hold it. If you want to, you could toss it from one hand to the other. But then when you run out of ammo, you have to reach down, grab a clip, put it in, and keep on going. And the best part was, I would glance over my shoulder,
magazine, Brian,
and you could point. Okay, whatever. You could point. It's like hey, to your left, to your right, or whatever. Every time a wave would finish, I would turn and face the full-bodied avatar of Jeff Kanata, and we would actually high five each other. It was like we were there. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. It's one thing. You'll see these things where you watch the video of like, oh, it looks cool. Like, yeah, but when you're in VR, it's incredible. That looks amazing. And when I saw the shot there of the robot crawling along towards like, oh god,
oh dude, it is horrific.
Dude. Game over. Let's go to picks. That was yours.
Yep.
And mine is so I've been working on a software project, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in another episode here. The short version is I had to teach myself Rails and Ruby and all that. And I say teach is learn enough to do things and then where to find answers to stuff. But
sure.
As I've been doing this, I have sitting next to me my iPad Pro on a stand, which I just use to watch movies while I, figure out why my log out procedure doesn't work when I'm in HTTPS, but works in HTTP when I'm using, Cloud9 on my development environment. And so I watch I've been watching tons of movies. And I watched a movie like I never saw before. And I'm like, what a perfectly fun movie for this genre. What if a perfectly, and it's its time frame, it's wonderfully encapsulated. A delightful movie by a director who has now gone on and did some other really interesting things. Bring It On.
Oh, no kidding.
It was such a really well done, in the genre of cheerleader movies. Very well told. It was done by Peyton Reed, who written by Jessica Bendinger. Peyton Reed directed Ant-Man.
Oh wow!
And, so this was like 2000 when this came out with, and so was one of Kirsten Dunst's big first starring roles. I mean, she was in other things like Small Soldiers and stuff. Eliza Dushku. I mean, just an interesting cast. Gabrielle Union. Great cast. Just you look at this cast that so many of them just went on to do bigger and amazing things from there. Great casting, really, really well put together. Just a funny movie, just a well put together stuff. So my pick is Bring It On.
Dude, that's great. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like you got to remember, just because you're not into a thing. Like I'm not into jazz music, but Whiplash was a really tightly well told story.
Yeah. Oh, I'm into cheerleading. It was what worked for me, and from deconstructing it from a storytelling point of view was. Every character was had a dimension to them, was pretty developed. The universe, it's this perfect San Diego town sort of environment. I'm fascinated by stories that take place in these where they have a very good sense of what the look is going to be, how it's going to fit in, and all this. Somebody point out, hot girls dancing. And I would say in exception, like the choreography in there was fantastic. And you've seen some of these like, oh, we'll just put together like a really quick dance movie or whatever. And it's not as good because they're just don't put as much attention to that. Where I thought here, every detail was thought, every detail had consideration. And as a writer, I think about, I need to think about that. Like, okay, is that person in the room they have a conversation with, is that a real person, or is that just a device to move to the next plot point? And is this just a room, or does there a purpose? Or not that everything has to be described in exquisite detail. There's a creator you need to know. So that was a lesson learned from Bring It On.
By the way, I am feeling that lesson very, very much now. Right before we went live, I was talking about how I watched, took the kids to see Secret Life of Pets, and in a world where I was lamenting how Finding Dory was nowhere near as tight a script or as well developed a world as Zootopia, all of a sudden, Secret Life of Pets is a fine example of somebody who waves their hands and say, yeah, we got great animators. We have the best animators. We got, they know what to do. We have great set pieces. We've got licensed musics. We'll just put it all together. And it very much just feels like next set piece, because now this happens and now this happens. Now this happens. And there was just so many wasted moments that didn't go anywhere, threads that didn't get picked up, characters that just suddenly flipped to another thing for no reason. When you compare that to the masterful storytelling and world building that we got from the likes of Zootopia, you can really see the difference.
Interesting point. These things matter, folks. And sometimes it's not that it's I'm trying to figure out like an analogy to it. It's not that the craftsmanship you apply to the smallest detail is going to affect the overall appearance. You want to build a beautiful building, you have to do, it's a sum of a bunch of really well-crafted parts.
Yeah, you know what? What it felt like the Cargo Cult's Secret Life of Pets was like. I don't understand. We had all the things Zootopia had. We had the cute animals in the city and the blah, blah, blah. Why aren't the planes arriving? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, it was a movie, conceived well before the success.
I know. But just look at like, why didn't it work? Anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I that was the thing where the ad campaigns. I'm like, well, it's got an interesting topics, but like I didn't in the trailer. I never saw a plot, so I'm like, okay. Yeah. Next week when Justin's back here, we'll talk about Rogue One.
Oh shoot! New news on that, right?
New footage.
Oh, okay. All right, I haven't seen it yet, so good. Good.
Next week, Brian.
Love you guys.
Right. Thank you. It's been after. All right, I got to turn on my AC. Thank you very much, Brian.
Dude, fantastic time. That was really good. Good job, team. Bye, guys. Watch Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. I still need to start that.
Yeah, I ended up watching